Good morning. It's December 27th. I hope everybody had a really great Christmas, as much as you can have. So we enjoyed our holidays here. We did get a little bit of snow, but yeah, a little snowed in. We are today, anyways. It's very icy on the hill here. So, but yeah, I'm Amanda Taylor from Oatka Glass Studio. I've been doing these videos for the Toe River Arts Virtual Studio Tour that has been happening from November the 23rd until December 27th today. So I hope you enjoyed them so far, and if you do enjoy my channel, please subscribe or give me a big thumbs up if you like the videos. I will be posting more of these videos, little demos and different components and parts of things I make and do. So but yeah, if you want to keep informed about that, please subscribe. So today I thought we'd just go over at the beginning the processes that we actually covered over this month period. So I put a little slideshow together. So here we go. So the first, there's 4 videos that I did, or live streams I did, that focus mainly on the landscapes pieces that I create. The first video was on me building the components that I put into the landscapes, and then the next video was on me actually assembling the components onto a base piece of glass for the landscapes, and then the third one was actually stacking the fired layers together so it created the thick landscapes, and I think I worked on another thicker piece, so I just assembling the components onto that base glass. And yeah, and the next, there that is. So you can see the middle slide is me stacking and figuring out where I want my clear glass to push and pull the background further or closer, whatever. But yeah, that's what was covered on those main 4 videos. So there's me cold working the larger piece and the smaller piece, and those are the final pieces. So I don't have those in my studio anymore. They actually got shipped to Canmore, Alberta, the Fallen Leaf Gallery in Canmore. That's where I sell my work. So, well, in Canada anyway. And so those are just photographs. I'm sorry I don't have those pieces anymore, but they were screaming for work for Christmas anyway. So those are gone. They don't last long in my studio. They get sent up pretty fast when I make them. But yeah, that was the landscape part of what I demoed for you guys. And then the next, well, kind of in between the landscapes and this thing, we actually made some Christmas ornaments. Verre was here making ornaments with me. And they're mostly little snow scenes, the midnight ones, and the little Christmas tree in the snow ones. So those were the final pieces that were created, and then we went on to freeze and fuse glass elements. And so I explained, you know, I use this process, the freeze and fuse process, for various things that I make, and one of them is my signs that I do. I'll show you the kind of the final product as soon as we finish the slideshow. And then, you know, the use of silicone molds that I have. Some I've created myself. Most of them I've just bought, because usually I teach this as well. So, you know, they're great for classes because they're readily available. But we also do, in the classes, we also do make our own silicone molds. So, but yeah, so you see the letter molds. There's a little arrow mold that I'm actually sponging some water, the excess water out of. And then there's the frozen little stocking sitting on, getting ready to be fired. So, and then these are the final pieces that were made, Christmas ornaments that were made through the freeze and fuse process. So there's stockings, there's little snowman heads, gingerbread men, 2 different sizes. There's a Christmas tree that turned out really cool, and then I have some snowflakes that are all done with the freeze and fuse casting method. And the next process that I demoed was the Pate. We created Pate flower panels. So the first video was making the components. So you can see there on the kiln shelf, all the fired little glass flowers, and then we slumped them into different shapes. So And there's some of the shapes there. And then we actually made the final pieces. So Araya made a ginkgo leaf Pate Verre little panel, and she was so proud of it, and then she tripped on the stairs and when she was carrying it home, and it went flying out of her hands and broke. So she actually made some more ginkgo leaf pieces so she can actually make another panel. She was very upset about that. She spent a lot of time and she loved the piece, but obviously you can see by the smile on her face. But on the far left is my little flower panel, which I'll show you again live here, and then the poppy one that I did quite a while ago. So anyway, it's a really cool process, and I love the final pieces that you can create with that technique. And the next thing I demoed was the glass powder wafer landscapes. So you can see the beginning of the powder wafer before it's fired, and then the first firing that's finished on them. I did an opal and a transparent one. The opal one is in the bottom far left, and the transparent one is above that. And so I worked on mainly just the opal one for the final finished piece that I will be showing you, but I'll also be showing you the transparent one. I still have to, because I had some mending I had to do on it. So, but you'll get to see how that worked, and talk about what I'm going to be doing with that in the future. So yeah, there's the final piece. So I tack fused it to a base piece of glass, the gray glass, and then I slumped it over form. And I actually really like these. They turn out really nice. I love the powder wafer landscapes. It's another too many techniques that are really cool. But yeah, there's so many things you can do with fused glass or kilnformed glass. It's unbelievable. And I love working with bullseye glass, so that's my favorite type of glass to work with. Here we are. We went into the fused glass mosaic poppy panels that we started to make, and we started on one piece, and then Rhea liked it so much she wanted to do a mirror image of it so she can actually mount it on a wood panel and hang it in her room. So we started off by drawing on the glass, cutting the flower pieces for the pattern, and then filling in the background. There she is, super gluing her pieces to the glass before we tack fuse it. So the two pieces on the right are before they go into the kiln. So those are going to be tack fused, which is like barely tack fused, and the reason is, excuse me, we actually take those out of the kiln. That's the top left-hand corner, and then and the bottom left-hand corner, and then the middle picture has black powder that has been pushed pushed into the gaps that are in between the pieces of glass, and then we fired it. And then the last process was actually adding little design things so that you actually got some visual texture on the glass. So that was before it was fired, and these are the pieces after they're fired. So that, like, you can tell less is more. So we are actually going to continue working on these pieces and add more visual texture to it so that it's actually visible. There is visible in some parts, but not as much as we'd like it to be. So we're going to continue working on those. And that's going to be what, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so it'll be worked on probably 4 or 5 times in the kiln before we get the final pieces out. And then the last part that we were working on was the mold making. So we made a mold out of that little dish that I have on the right-hand side, top right-hand side. So the first day we showed you how I made the molds, and then the next day, a couple days later, we actually packed the molds with glass frit. So there's the bottom left-hand one is going into the kiln, and the bottom right-hand one is the finished fired pieces. So, and Araya was going to be here to demold her little vessel, but can't move on the roads, they're too icy. So anyway, so I'm going to be demolding that, and that's what we're actually going to be doing now. So let's see here. So that was it for my little overview of everything. So now I'll just go over the final projects and what was created, just so you see the actual physical products, not just on the slideshow, a little more close up and personal. Yeah, so the landscape, so like these were the little, the landscapes that I made. So a little bit of texture on them, my little rock bases here, and yeah, so it sits in the little channel. There we go. So that's, I made a bunch of those for the Fallen Leaf Gallery in Canmore, and also for the Southern Holland Craft Guild in Asheville, and the Tour of Arts Council in Burnsville and Spruce Pine. So, and again, this is just an example of the thick pieces that I make. So, you can actually see the physical layers that are in the piece. So this is one of the pieces, the style of work that I do. These are going to be for sconces, wall sconces, and then I'm making some table lamps as well. But yeah. And what else do we do? Okay, little Christmas ornaments. And I'll tip overhead here. So yeah, these are Christmas ornaments we always have in stock. But yeah, these are some of the little landscape ones that we did. So those are the final pieces. I have a stockpile of Christmas ornaments because usually I sell several different kinds in different stores. So that was that. And then we'll go to, what do we do? Freeze and fuse. So, here are my little silicone molds that I use for the stockings. And they end up so cute. They're so cute. They're so cute. So I love little stockings. I actually made a whole pile of these for all my friends that live locally, and so they all have little stockings that I gave away for Christmas with their initial on it. They're just such cool little things. Yeah, and then I have my little gingerbread man. This Christmas tree turned out actually really awesome. I guess that wouldn't work. So, yeah, it has little frip balls on it for the little ornaments that are on the tree. And the gingerbread man turned out really cool. And here's my away. So this is my little Oatka glass sign that I'm actually going to mount onto a wood board that I'm going to burn, which is Shoshujibon. So I'm going to tack fuse these onto here. I'm probably going to add like some birds or freeze and fuse birds or flowers or whatever, just to give it more interest. And then it gets mounted as a sign down the road so people can find us up here, because we're kind of out of the way. So yeah, that'll be cool when that's all finished. I love my little signs. And it is amazing because people go for walks up and down the roads here. It's kind of like going hiking, and they see my signs and they're like, oh wow, I didn't know there was a glass studio up here. We're like 4,000 feet up the mountain. So, and it's a single lane gravel dirt road, very narrow, like one car width. So you don't get too many visitors, but that come up here that are just driving around town. So let's see here. So now we can go to the little Pate Verre pieces, and I'll just show those. So this is the flower piece that I actually made. So it's just kind of cool. It's three-dimensional form. I have my little keyhole mount on the back, and these are pretty fragile when you're packing them for shipping. But I think it turned out so cool, like spring flowers. It's just like you feel like you can lay in that. It'd be kind of spiky, but anyway, yeah. And I did make some ginkgo leaves myself. I've actually slumped them so they're shaped a little bit, but I also added some pulled vitrograph stringer to them, so they have a little bit of visual interest to them. They're not just a green. So I made these when Araya made hers, and of course I might as well show you her redo. We haven't slumped these yet, but yeah, so she made different colors because she found out how dark some of the greens are when you get into this process, and she really loved the holiness of it. So that was all in firing schedule. So it's not my typical, like these were fired, these were definitely fired at a different temperature than these. So, and you can kind of see that. And yeah, you can kind of see that when you look at them this way. Yeah, one's definitely has some texture to it, and this has texture, but it's also starting to pull apart and become like lace, glass lace, and you can do that with these. But yeah, it's a very sad day when that happened to her. Okay, so that's a Pate de Verre piece. Let's see here. So we have, you know, the here's my broken little powder wafer landscape. So you can see the crack in it, and so what I did was I sifted, I glued it back together with super glue, and then I sifted white powder over the whole thing again, and then I also sifted a little bit more on the line that was where it was broken, and you can see that because it has kind of a little ridge there. So don't lay it on the table and lean on it like this, because it's like a fulcrum. So bye-bye, you'll break it again. So you have to be really careful with these until it's fired again. So what I'm going to do is kind of try to heal this line here. You can actually see how that line, the break line, is visible, but I'm hoping that I can save this piece because I really like the transparent look to it. I like the opal turned out really nice too, but I found that working with transparent powders just gives it a little more lightness to it, especially with the yellows. The yellows are very, very strong in the opal, which you'll see here. Yeah, so this is the opal piece here, and I actually slumped it over form, so it's in a round shape or semicircle shape. So, but like I said again, the yellows are definitely very strong compared to the yellows in this, but I love the form of this. I think it turned out really nice when it's slumped. Kind of gives you another option rather than just mounting it and hanging it to some kind of wood base or mounting system or whatever. But yeah, these make really nice tabletop pieces. So, but with this one, I really like how you get the brown in here, because that's a little color reaction between the blue in the sky and the yellow in the lower part of the sky. But I love that effect. It turned out really cool. Anyway, to be continued. No, not on this show. Not on this video. Anyway, I put that away, and like I said, be very careful with anything that's broken like this, and you've repaired it, because it will break if you misuse it. So, and then we come to the Pate de Verre. No, I think it was mosaic pieces. So here are the mosaic pieces that we did. Yeah. So these are Reyes pieces. I'll put them down on the ground down here so you can see them, and arrange them the way that she wanted to have them, and then mine. So they look pretty dark because there's no light coming through them, but if you lift them up, you can see a little bit of the light coming through. So we did do a little bit of clear stringer in here, which gave it a little bit of a color density change, but not enough. And the red's so red that you can see a little bit of the color variation in it, but we're going to have to put a lot more on there. So like I said, we're going to be working more on these, and I'm actually going to be mounting these to board, so it's kind of like a diptych. I'll be cold working the edges eventually so they're nice and straight, and so will Araya. But yeah, these are Araya's pieces, so she did a really nice job. A couple of little issues, but I have no idea what this stuff is. She must have, I don't know what happened, but she got something in there and it won't fire out, so we might take a drill and drill that little smudge out of there, so and put more like clear powder or something in there to get rid of that. But yeah, I think they turned out really good. I love working in this style of mosaics, the fused glass mosaics. You can get some really beautiful pieces with that. That's that. Okay, and now it's a Pate de Verre. So here's my little Pate de Verre bowl. And weren't going for that with what we did in the video, but I will bring those pieces over, and I'm actually going to demold. And when I demold, I put a little nose on here. Got my little dog nose, a cat nose, or whatever. But I'm going to get the pieces and my paper. We'll actually I'm going to put these boards down again, just to keep the plaster off. Plus, I'm putting some paper down so I can just fold it up and throw it in the garbage. Again, typically I don't work right in my main part of my studio with plaster because I don't like the dust getting everywhere. So, yeah, it's icky. Not good for you to breathe in. So that's why I have my mask. I'll roll up my sleeves a little bit, and then we're going to get to demolding. And you have to be really careful about demolding because there's little spiky bits all the way around. So, and I'm just going to pull it apart. And this is Rhea's little bowl that she did. You see how easily it comes off. You don't want to wrench on it, but it does come off relatively easily normally. If not, you stick it in a pail of a little bit of vinegar and water, and we're actually going to do that to get the rest off. I have a pail of water over here. There's a pail of water. So I'm going to just stick that in there. I'm going to let it soak. These have been cooling in the kiln for, 3 days now? 4 days? So I wouldn't typically put it in, like this is lukewarm water, but I typically wouldn't put it into water. I wouldn't put it into water until it's completely cool. So I usually wait like 2-3 days before I actually do any coal working to it, just so chance to minimize the chances of it cracking because of thermal shock. So now we're gonna go to my piece, and I had some issues with mine, which I knew I would because I didn't really spend a lot of time packing the top, and also I wanted it to be shiny on the inside as well as on the outside. Well, the outside won't be shiny, but yeah, you'll see the difference. But typically with these, and this is a little harder to get apart because I actually have, when I made this mold, I used fiberglass threads on the second outer coating of the mold when I made the mold, and that's just to give the mold more strength, so you have less chance of it cracking, which causes, and then you can see flashing on the inside on the glass, which means the mold kind of cracked and pulled away a little bit, so your glass kind of went into that little crack. And the second coat is just to make just insurance that you won't have any glass pouring out of your mold. Yeah, this is definitely a little bit harder. I might use a little bit of a tool. Oh, that came out. There you go. Well, that was easy. And they should come off of the mold pretty easily, but I didn't want it to slam onto the table. Thank God it didn't break it. But anyway, and there was a little bit, no, there was no, yeah, so that's going to get soaked in the kiln, or in the kiln. It's going to get soaked in the water as well. I can see there was a little bit of a nub in the mold somewhere that I didn't know about, but doesn't matter. We're going to be actually using the hand pads to cold work these. You can see all the fine little spikes around there. That's actually going to come off, and I can actually take that off with, I'm just going to get this, I can use my grozing pliers there, and kind of just, you know, gently, because I want to save some of the organic form of it, but I don't want to bleed to death while I'm cold working, handling it. So, and if I do sell this piece, I don't want my customers to kill themselves either. So I'm just gently taking off the spikes. I might as well do this before I even stick it in the water, because I'll be pulling it out of the water, and I just don't want to cut myself. Surprise, surprise. If you want to cut yourself all the time, you have an issue. So I'm definitely not one of those people. There we go. Oh, and you can see my little dots, which really, well, we'll see when we start cold working them. I didn't expect any miracles that they would actually be really visible, but they definitely will have a different texture. And you see, like the inside, or the outside, you can feel how granular it is. And if I don't want that, like I think this is a lot smoother, I actually sift clear powder over the whole interior of the mold before I start packing it with frit, and that will give you a smooth surface, just like, you know, the powder dots that I did. So and also, if you didn't want it that shiny on the inside, but you didn't want to put, I didn't want it to be a sugary finish either, like this is kind of a sugary finish on this, on the inside of this. You can see it has some texture to that. I didn't want that in this piece, but if you didn't want it to be really, really shiny, when you have the mold sitting in the kiln, you put a piece of fiberboard over top of the mold so that the heat doesn't actually get to the inside of the glass, or the inside of the bowl, as readily as if you just leave it wide open. And with these, we just left them wide open, because I don't think I have a sample of a shiny interior like this. So I just wanted to show you, because all the other pieces I have, they're either sugary or I did put a piece of fiberboard over them. Okay, so into the water it goes. So it still needs a little bit of cold working, and still a few little dangerous parts, but like I said, I want to leave it a little organic. Okay, so into the water goes. And I brought some hand pads, so I'm going to try to get this off. I usually have a wire brush. Try not to kill myself on this piece, because I didn't take off all the little shiny, or the little spiky knobs. But she did a very good job with her packing, because I forced her to pack longer than I did. Anyway, so you can see, once we pull it out, and I'll get some paper towel. Yeah, if you watch that video, you'll see how long she packed her piece. And yeah, so yeah, she must have packed it for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. But yeah, it is a perfectly thin little bowl, and that, you know, here's that sunset coral that she put in the bottom, the powder. So it's going to be relatively smooth. It's has a little bit of tooth right now, and that's just because of the thing. Just until we cold work it, but it will be a lot smoother once we do that. So I'm just gonna, and I'm wearing my mask while I'm removing the plaster. I should actually be wearing safety glasses. Speaking of which, safety. Anyway, and the reason for that is because I'm taking the spikes off. Now my glasses are gonna fog up and I won't be able to see anything. Yep. Okay. That's not gonna work because of the mask. But anyway, just being really careful. And she was gonna be, Ray was gonna be here to do this, but I said, bad roads today. It's beautiful, beautiful sunny day here, but you know, when that happens, the snow on the roads begins to melt and it turns to ice because it's still kind of cold here. But when the sun hits it, and then starts freezing again, not good. Well, there's nowhere to go because it's a single lane road, and she lives down the valley and then up the other side of the mountain, across the valley from us. So you have to go down and up and then back down and up again. So not so easy when the roads are icy. But yeah, and we can actually cold work this piece on the cold working equipment. Like she can shape it if she wants to into, like, take it right down to where you can feel where the bowl and the mold ended. So if she wants to do that, she can, or she can leave it the way it is. I'll let her do that, but I'm just going to show you how I cold work that. Okay. So, okay. So we have all the little bits off of there. I'm going to actually use the hand pads to show you what I typically do in the next step, but I'm going to get rid of this first. So I'm going to get rid of all this mess. So here we go. I got my little bag. That's why I got, even with all that paper, we still got some stuff on the table. So clean it up. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to fold this up. Like a present. There you go. My plastic present. And into the bag it goes. And same with the mold from Maria's. Maybe I'll wrap it up and give it to her. Okay, so that bag can go away. The bag's going away. Now we have our pieces in here. And I have some hand pads. So I have 60, 120, and 200. So, and I'm going to do it on here because, you know, it's relatively waterproof. Well, it should be. I might just soak it up a little bit. I'm going to dip my hand pad into the 60 grit, or into the water, into the 60 grit. Then we're going to I actually might. So I have little pieces of this material that I typically, they're like scrap pieces that I get from HIS Glassworks. The scrap pack. You know, let's use a Dremel with a diamond bit on it to do this, but it goes pretty fast. And I'm just trying to get the plaster off it mainly, but I will be soaking this in a vinegar solution. But yeah, so what I'm doing is just trying to make this a little smoother so it feels nice and soft instead of granular. Yeah, and remember we use powder in the foot, which should make it nice and soft, or smooth, I should say, soft. Pillowy soft glass. Who's ever heard of it? You heard it here first at the Oatka glass. Pillowy soft glass. So I meant nice and silky smooth. God. Okay. So that's just the plaster. So I'm going to work on the outside a little bit. So I'm just going around. Going around so it feels smoother. There we go. Going around the little foot. And the more time you spend on this process, the better. I was going to let Araya do this, but she has childhood arthritis, and her hands aren't as strong as what yours and mine may be. So she has problems with certain things, and one of them would be coal working, because it's kind of it's hard on your hands. Just by the gripping that you have to do. And get that out of there. It already feels really nice compared to what it did. Clean it off. It's hard in my hands, never mind. And if I didn't take the spiky bits off of this, and I have it pushed up against my hand, I'm cutting myself. It's always good to take the spiky bits off. Okay, let's check this out. So it looks a lot better, a lot smoother. Whoop, whoop, wrong way. Okay, so now I'm going to work on the body. And I'll show you on this piece. I'm going to work on my own later on for this. So you don't have to sit here and watch me coal work both pieces. Because basically the process is the same, and I'm actually going to take my mask off because I don't need it on anymore. And I'll be right back because I'm going to blow my nose. Having my head bent down. Here we go. Nice on camera. You can hear me do that. That's great. Oh. Okay, so check the pad. You could also sandblast these, but I find that sandblasting it, the particles are so fine from the sandblasting material that it kind of sometimes gets embedded in these vessels because it's so granular anyway. So, you know, you don't want to pull your piece out of the sandblaster and then you have all these little black dots that are trapped inside all the little particles. So, yes, not the good. Not the good. Okay, so now we're gonna, and I'm putting my hand underneath it where I'm actually working. Like you see, my hand is here, and I'm holding it so that when I'm pushing down to coal work, I'm not going to snap the piece, because that can happen. So I'm just giving added support. Okay. Yeah, and I think I will soak this in vinegar first before I do any more coal working on it. So you won't see the leaf but typically, coal work with the 60 grit, which is the coarsest grit, diamond hand pad. These are diamond impregnated hand pads. And I do sell them if anybody's interested. Contact me, email me. And my email is like oatkaglass@gmail.com. So if you wanted to get some of these great hand pads, because they last quite a while, they're the best ones I've ever worked with. You can. Yeah, as you can see, or I can see, well, the white particles or the white look in there, that's probably some of the plaster still embedded in there. So like I was saying, I typically do the 60. Then once I'm happy with the way that feels, then I go to the 120 and do the whole thing again. And it's amazing how, as you work through the grits, how nice it feels. It gets smoother and smoother and smoother. The Pate Verre is never going to be perfectly smooth because the particles are just, they're fused together, but you know, it's supposed to have a granular look, so they're not a full fuse, and you probably couldn't do, well, you can do a full fuse, but if you did a full fuse with the molds open like I did, you end up with a solid piece of cast glass, because the glass would just move down the mold and pool in the bottom of the mold, so you don't want to do that. But these were, I would take them to 1380. Anyway, but so I'm going to continue working on these, but I want to first soak them in vinegar and water, just to try to break down the calcium in the plastic silica molds. So yeah, so I'm going to soak that again, pull mine out, my little vessel, and check it out, talk about it. Get some more paper towel here. It's getting kind of damp down here. Okay. So yeah, this is my vessel. Like I said, not perfect. I didn't spend enough time packing on the lip, which I knew. Just didn't for time's sake, I didn't do that, but it still turned out to be very cool. I love how it's organic on the edge. The dots, like I said, the dots, you can't really see them that well that I put in here, but they are there. So, you know, next time I just wanted to see if it would make a difference if I use the same color, if I would actually be able to see it, because it is powder compared to fine frit. So, but once we coal work it, that'll come out. And we put the powder powder glacier blue in the bottom. So, you know, again, oh, hang on, Anna. I have a little nub there. I'm going to try to get rid of that. Soak it. Yeah, so a little bit of coal working on that, and that'll clean that up nicely, make it nice and smooth. And I'll probably do the sides. You know, I have that little divot there, so which I don't want. Didn't notice that as I was packing, so it had a little hole in it, in the mold, in the inside. So the glass flows into it, but you see how shiny that is now? Definitely a different shininess to it than it had a second ago. So, you know, if you spend time on the exterior of your mold, and you do a little bit of coal working, you can get a pretty nice finish. I don't know if I have, I think I do. Do I have that in here? I think I have a piece that Deborah Harrell, my late friend Deborah Harrell, she made, and I'm going to just try to find that. I'll be right back. So I think it's right around the corner. Yes, it is. Here it is. So Deborah made this piece for me. It's like in spring green, and well, it was a clay positive mold, positive in this form, and then she made a mold around it. And this was done in one of the classes she taught quite a few years ago now, but yeah, she unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago, which is sad. But she made beautiful pieces, and this has a smooth feel to it. And the reason why is because we cold worked it, and yeah, and see, she left the rough edge along it, but it kind of suits the piece. So there's that. So like I said, you can, the more time you spend on the exterior of the pieces by cold working them, the less, like, because this is pretty much like sandpaper at the moment. Not an aggressive sandpaper, but it's still sandpaper-ish. Yeah, and if I start working more on this little nub, we'll eventually get that off. But anyway, I'm going to continue working on those. I really appreciate you guys following my processes on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, and I hope you continue to watch and look forward to the next videos I'm going to be doing. I won't be doing them every second day. It's been a little much, but I overcommitted. But that was just for the virtual studio tour. But I will be producing at least one every week on different things. So if you guys have any suggestions for me on things you'd like me to cover or talk about or demonstrate, you can just email me or go to my website. There's a contact form on my website at www.oatkaglass.com, Oatka Glass, or you can email me at either oatkaglass@gmail.com or amanda@oatkaglass.com. So several ways of getting hold of me, but yeah, it'd be good to hear your thoughts on what you'd like me to demonstrate for you. So it's been fun. I hope you enjoyed everything you see. Subscribe to my channel, like what you see, and we'll go from there. Going for 1,000 subscribers, so yeah, hopefully one day. I have gathered a few in the last couple weeks, but anyway, it's been a lot of fun, and I hope to see you soon.